getting his phone number. Okay. Richard, can you hear us? Richard, are you? Oh, there he is.
All I can see is Janet.
Oh,
Fine.
okay.
But I'm on my phone, so I don't.
Okay.
It's so weird because I just did a Zoom meeting the other night with this. I don't understand.
I know this happens to you with some frequency, Barry. Richard?
I think I have an electrical charge that messes up computers and electronic devices on my body.
Richard, are you able to hear us? I think
his audio is off. Something just popped up on the screen. It said Richard's audio is off.
Okay, so he can't hear us.
Says he has a new computer. From Richard to everyone, we will dial in, it says.
Okay. Just give him a minute to dial in.
Am I on?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I got a new computer. It's an Apple, and it doesn't. I should have been prepared. It didn't have audio, so sorry.
Okay. All right. So, Barry, I think we have everybody here that will be here today.
Good.
Do you want to?
Well, did we look at the? Do we need to review the approve the minutes from December 4th and January 6th?
Do you want to officially call the meeting to order?
Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll officially calling the meeting to order at 10:05.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Rodney won't be here today. He sent an email Monday that he wasn't able to come. And then Dave Beck this morning sent an email and said at the last minute that he wasn't available, but we do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead with the agenda. So sorry, Barry.
So we probably should just approve of the. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meetings? Any additions or corrections?
Couldn't get into the December one, but I got a copy. I saw the January's. There was a password I needed to get into December's for some reason.
That's weird.
Do you think maybe to defer this, since Dave and Rodney aren't here, do you think it would hurt to defer the review of the minute? Because if Ariana's also having issues seeing December's, it might be good to just put that off to the next.
Yeah, good idea.
I think given I think Rodney's mother may have passed away. I think that
Oh.
I doubt he's had the chance to look at
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So we'll postpone that until the next meeting. It's not a big deal. Okay, old business. Presentation and discussion of possible action on proposed location behind the library. We talked a little bit about that, and Janet sent the land lease information.
Yes, so based on the discussion that we had about the size, the plot of land that would be needed for facility, I was able to get the land lease for that plot of land that was discussed at last month's meeting, which is located behind the library. As you can see on the map, it's 0.77 acres of land, and I believe that in our previous discussions, the plot of land that would be needed, or the space that would be needed, was over an acre.
But that included parking lot.
Correct.
Space.
Hey, you know me, I have my famous sketches, but I went over there and paced out the land and sketched it. And basically you can fit the 4 courts stacked like this. And I even allowed for sunrise and sunset, so the sun goes over that way, and it will fit because there's no parking. But it'll definitely fit, and you won't even have to disturb the berms.
Okay. The parking, though, I think would become an issue because
it,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We can't take away parking from the library, and we have the Rollins Center, which I don't think we can take away parking from them either. And as Andrew brought up at last month's meeting, excuse me, the city is considering using the Rollins Community Center meeting room for more frequent meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that there's enough parking.
Janet, there's also, I apologize for cutting in, but it also looks like Candace is on the line as well. And I believe she may be have some knowledge about plans for that area as well that might add to the conversation. Are you able to bring her in? I appreciate that.
Yep.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning, Candace.
Good morning, colleagues. Yes, so in terms of Parks and Recreation Commission activity, there is still an intention to use that area for a garden. And relative to the trains that may get positioned on the railroad tracks, there's going to be a children's train themed garden adjacent to the railroad tracks and the items that will be placed there. Additionally, I have great concerns about library parking. I mean, today is not a good day to question how many cars would be in the library parking lot, but from history, when the library is open, full up round, that library parking lot is full every day, at least several times a day. So to offer parking for another activity outside of the leased parking lot that the library leases from the city would not be an appropriate use of that question.
Mm.
So it sounds like there's a lot of issues with that, even though it physically could fit in the space.
Unless you were planning to put sufficient parking in that space, which won't fit, it is not a plan that has merit.
Thank you.
That's unfortunate. It's a good spot.
Great spot. Yeah.
Well, at least we've checked out all the options as far as that site is. We know what the parameters are and everything. So. Okay.
Yeah, and Ann Reed had said that right beyond that little garden that's on the other side of the berm, that there is plans to develop that strip of land with some residential. There's a small strip of land that you could probably, so that would be, they'd be right on top of it too. So that might be an issue down the road if it were under consideration further.
Yeah, the Rec and Parks just saw the plans for that recently.
Right.
Okay, other locations. Well, let's.
So is everyone in agreement then that the space behind the library is not an appropriate site for consideration for the pickleball courts?
I'm very
I
reluctant.
would say,
That sadly, I guess not. Sadly, though.
yeah, parking's a killer. I mean, that's a killer.
Yeah, because I think we talked about 46 spaces and we really don't have access to any parking over there.
No, I mean, I thought if you could maybe add like 20 spaces and just think about, the overflow into, because I mean, that the parking lot at the library is quite large when you consider it going all the way out to the pavilion where the bike trailhead is.
If I might add something else, there have been examples where library programs have occurred and all of those parking spaces, including the trailhead parking, have been encumbered and people have had to park on Kings Highway.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's that popular because you've got meeting rooms that accommodate all of the folks that want to come in for the meetings. And then separate from that, you've got the library usage that happens on a day-to-day basis. So I can give you a testimony if you need it, but it's, COVID is not an exemplar of what we're dealing with here. So, you could drive over there and say, really, it looks really big. Well, it's usually really full. We average the library when it's open over 800 people a day.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, the one thing I did not check when I was there is, since I was assuming we had potential parking with the library, that this area, if this is Kings Highway and you're looking across, the library's over here, back behind it, there's certainly a long strip of grass that is deep enough that you could pull cars in like straight, but I never looked to see what's back there, whether there's a road or if, I don't know how far the property goes back, but certainly we wouldn't be talking about 30 or 40 parking spots, maybe 10, 15, 20 at the most that could be gotten in there. But I'd be willing to go back and take a second look just to make sure. But unless there's enough room back there to get ample parking, I think it's a done deal. It's not good.
Okay.
I know this idea, I believe, has been brought up. The idea of repurposing in the state park, there were a tennis court near where the Frisbee golf area is in the state park. And if you're talking about a situation where people are going to drive and park, this would be a good potential reuse of that macadam that's there. So as you're driving towards the bathhouse, it's on your right-hand side. There's a clearing there. You could probably fit the courts and parking on the existing macadam if it was refurbished.
But I mean, to draw people into I drove through the park yesterday just to get a feel again. It's easy to get lost, for one thing. I mean, I've lived here for a lot of years and I still get lost in the park. But do they have to pay to get in to play pickleball? I have a lifetime pass, but not everybody does, maybe. But to draw people through Lewis in the summertime with the summer traffic, the cyclist, and the ferry traffic. It just seems like a nightmare to me to draw people back into that area. You're right about that, Andrew, about maybe it's halfway set up with the, you say there's a surface there already?
Yeah, there's an existing surface. It probably 30 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, it was abandoned as a tennis court.
Oh, okay.
But it's there, again, the idea that paved surfaces, as a community, I think we want to try and repurpose if we can. That's my point there. We come into these issues as council a lot of, permeable surface and how much is left in the excellent recharge areas in Lewis. And it's, if we get this approved in Lewis, you're going to potentially run into some of those issues as well of, where can you even put coverage of this magnitude on an existing lot, and how are you going to, presumably it's going to be open space. So again, is the policy around, paving on open spaces, those are just issues that you have to consider that are going to come up.
Yeah. Good point.
Pay to get in? I mean, would there be how do you work? I mean,
well, to your point, I mean, maybe, and that,
is that an issue that people have to pay to get into the park?
There is a comment in the chat from Doug Spellman. The annual pass, and he thinks it's $10 for an annual pass, but I mean, that's certainly something that we can verify. And if they're state residents, it's a little bit more for out-of-state residents, but it's not a tremendous fee, but we can verify what that is.
Or maybe we can.
Yeah, I can. And I think anybody that being a pickleball addict, I think even if it was $25 or $50, if someone knew that they had a nice place to play for a season pass, I don't think that would be a hindrance at all.
Now, are there restrooms there too, Andrew?
So they're not directly adjacent to that parcel that I'm talking about, but there is the same general vicinity. There are some basketball courts, which again, that could be an area. It looks like someone had mentioned to me, I think that they had removed the backboards. Now, whether that's because they're going to refurbish that as a basketball court, I don't know, but that's also a paved area right there in there's a circular. So again, as you're driving towards the bathhouse, instead of the right-hand area, you would take a left before you get to there's a paved surface there. I don't know.
And I think there's restrooms back there, Andrew.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
There's
there are
restrooms back
there.
with those basketball.
That's
yeah.
Right. That's right.
And that's an easy walk. And both of those facilities, I ride my bike by there all the time. Both of those are adequate for, I've never really paced out with the dimensions, whether they could handle 8 courts, but you could fit certainly 6 on either one of those.
That's something that
the asphalt's pretty broken up though. The asphalt would have to be recycled and put down again. It's not, you couldn't just put covering. There's grass growing up through it and things like that.
Yeah, when they build new courts, I don't know how valuable an existing deteriorated surface is. That's a question Charlie O'Donnell, somebody would probably be able to answer or give us some insight into, I think. But this is,
I mean, I think the one that the resurfacing of the existing tennis courts is roughly 150 grand. So that's probably a good indicator.
Right.
Do you have a cost for starting from scratch on grass and starting from scratch surfacing for courts? How much more money is that? I have no idea.
That's, to Barry's point, that's probably a question for Charlie to work up.
I mean,
I think
because there are some
the studies.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The delay is a killer, but I think when you get to some of the studies that were done by First State Pickleball and all that, and you have $60,000 per court roughly to construct, that includes an asphalt paving. That's starting from the dirt. So I don't know what portion of that 60 grand it is, but that's assuming that you're going to start with an asphalt base rather than a concrete base. Concrete's more expensive, obviously. But they have machines now that they run them in there. They dig up the asphalt that's on there, recycle it in the machine, add the tar and everything, and then lay it right back down. So you can do that. That's probably a little bit cheaper than fresh asphalt, but I don't know.
Okay.
But at times in the summer, is it true that the park will close? Isn't that an issue?
Yes, and that was a comment in the chat as well, that they do close the park when it does reach capacity.
Yeah. Maybe that's.
I did get some information on the passes as well. They're $35. And then for seniors, they're 18, and seniors can purchase a lifetime pass. I think it's for $65. So, but those fees are on the website.
Okay.
And I would imagine most people in this area have park passes anyway to use the trails.
I agree. I have a lifetime, and with my experience, because I ride my bike up there all the time, is, Memorial Day is one of the days they always close once or twice. 4th of July, the really big weekends. But other than that, I don't think I've ever seen it closed due to capacity other than holiday weekends.
It's usually late afternoons too, or in the middle of the day. Not late afternoons, middle of the day. So most of the time in the middle of the day. In the summer, people are not going to be playing pickleball. It's too hot. But
Richard and Ariana, do you find that the weekends during the summer is still fairly heavy time at pickleball as during the week, or is it same?
I play less in the summertime. I have to admit that, because I played in 80-degree weather, and it's pretty tough down by the canal. So I really can't speak to that. I'll go hang out at the pool instead. But in the summertime, yeah, I'm just thinking the traffic is horrendous around here in the summer. I'm thinking of that. Whether I would play in the afternoon, not if it's 80s or 90s. Not now.
No, most of the play at that Canal Park is daily. There are a lot of people, but it's usually from 8 to 11.
Yeah. And during the week, not on the weekends. I mean, not that people don't play on the weekends, but it's not a lot of people on weekends. I mean, from my observation, and I go by there all the time. So, I mean, the other thing is there may be additional land that the state park could lease to us or whatever. I mean, state park is pretty large. I mean, all the land across the street from the ferry terminal, that's all state land, and not that it's necessarily accessible, but that might be, a conversation that we could have with the state, or are there, pieces of land that could be, all the way. I mean, the whole corner there where Kings Highway comes in, all the way up to the bridge that goes over the canal, that's all state land. So, I mean, I think that's certainly something that we could consider in addition.
Does anybody else drive to the Osher Center? There's a big flat section of land there. I don't know to whom it belongs, but if you drive to the Osher and you kind of veer to the right, there's it's a big open space right there. Does anybody know about that?
That's the Board of Education, and certainly something I think that we should check out. That's one of the places that I looked at, and Ariana's looked at it a little more closely.
Yeah, because with the Osher Center there must be some, I didn't go inside, but there must be restrooms inside there. I guess I'm focusing on that a lot, but it's easy to get to. You just go up DuPont and go straight up off 4th to DuPont, and then into the Osher. But it has a lot of parking. I think, well, it has some parking there. I didn't count how many, at least 40, I think.
Well, you could use the parking for Smith Park right by the playground.
But there's also parking right near the Osher Center too. And I don't know how frequently that building is used, actually.
They're not using it now for OSHA.
Oh, okay. What about
I don't think,
non-COVID though? Non-COVID.
no, I don't, I think OSHA's moved somewhere else.
Okay. Well,
Does anybody else know anything about that? Andrew, do you know anything about that? I mean, we need to check with the Board of Education, I guess.
there's a little basketball court there, and which is paved obviously, and then this very large plot of land, and it's flat. So,
and where is it? So I want to ride by. Where is it again?
You you're on 4th Street and you turn onto DuPont and you go straight up into Osher.
Okay.
Just like you're going to the Smith Park. If you're going to Smith Park
okay.
But you drive up there, there's another little building nearby. I don't know what that is. I didn't walk around. I just drove around. I did get out and look at the land though. But it's very large. The homes nearby are pretty well set back, so I don't think it would interfere with their comforts, you know. But it's probably worth looking at, maybe.
So Trina Brown indicates that OSHA has moved, and she lives right there on DuPont, and just indicates, as a lot of places in Lewis, it gets wet, you know, standing water when it rains.
Oh, okay.
We do have a request from Christine to make a comment. So Christine, if you can unmute.
I wanted to wait to get back to the library option when you get back to that conversation.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely circle around back to that.
Okay.
Why don't we do that now? Because I think we, you know, did have discussion that it would not suit the needs for the pickleball facility. But so your comments, Christine?
Well, I just wanted to echo Candace's concerns about parking, in addition to drainage issues being near a residential area, et cetera. We don't find the area conducive to the pickleball courts, and we'd like to have it eliminated officially as an option.
I don't think we need to officially eliminate it. There's issues, obviously greater issues than any other spot, but I think we're just in the process of investigating possibilities.
Well, just to add, I think Andrew brought up a great point. We all know that this water recharge is come to a point. It's a big issue, and obviously pickleball courts are going to be anywhere you put them. It's going to be an issue. So that's why that makes the park sites that are already paved very, very attractive. And the other good thing about the park, looking at those sites, they're surrounded by big, heavy, thick pine trees. So wind would normally be a big issue out on the park. It's on the point in the ocean, right? So, but that would help with the wind screens. Maybe you wouldn't need quite as many. So I think that's an interesting option. I know that there are problems with getting in, and people have to buy memberships, but we'd have some of the major issues like parking and recharge would be taken care of already.
Okay.
So going back to the library, are we able to take that off the list as a possible location, given the activities that already are slated for that area, the fact that parking is an issue, the impervious surface drainage issues?
I would say there's too many strikes against it.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay. So officially, for the record, the library, the area behind the library will be off the table for further discussion. I don't know, do we need to make a motion on that?
I don't, again, I think we're investigating sites. I don't think we need to officially.
Okay. All right.
Good, Barry.
So then to circle back around, we talked about the state land, we talked about the Osher Center.
There's also, once again, I'm sorry, I keep focusing on the same area, but I drove past the construction of the renovation of the school off Savannah.
Right.
There's a massive amount of land around there. Did you know, Andrew, what all that land is going to be used for?
Yeah, I mean, they are planning to develop it as sort of like a park area, but I think the issue you may run into there is that it is school-owned land as such. So I don't know that you could use it during school hours. You may run into those kinds of issues, but I think on the Shield side, I think they are planning to have some athletic amenities because I would think it would be a middle school or something. So
Okay. Well, then I guess I'm back to that land near OSHA, because it seems like no one's using that at the moment, or even if they do, the courts, take a look at the land because it's a nice piece. And I think the homes are across the street. So there are no homes right on that parcel from whatever, with my memory. It's worth looking at, I think.
Yeah, I think we need to get some more details on that.
And I'll drop, I'm sorry.
I could check with the Board of Education and find out what, if they have any plans for that site or that building.
But I'll make an effort, obviously, to drive out to the park and find the bathhouse. I got lost yesterday. I'll tell you, there was nobody there and I still got lost.
Yeah,
So-
the area I would direct you probably more to look at for realistic bathroom, because the bathhouse from the paved area I'm talking about is quite a ways. So
where do I go, Andrew?
So as you're going towards the bathhouse, the main beach.
Okay. I haven't been there. I don't go to that beach. I go to Herring Point. I know that.
Okay, yeah, you're going the opposite way then, yeah. And then so you go past that the nature center.
I got there yesterday.
Okay, so go a little past there, and then instead of continuing on, you'll see your first left when you get to past the nature center.
Okay.
And you'll start to see, like I described, a basketball court.
Okay.
And up on the bluff, there's they actually had youth camps there, like day camps that they host in that building up there. So they may intend to put the basketball courts back, but that's where I believe they've built some amenities in that area over the last year or so.
Okay, thank you.
In the past, I don't think they did it this summer, but that park will host field hockey camps and lacrosse camps and those kinds of things. There's a sort of a dormitory that sits behind that tree line there. And then they use the parade grounds, the open area there for the athletic fields. And so the area I'm saying that's already paved is just beyond that parade ground area. As Richard mentioned, is sort of a cutout inside a tree line. Nice. And it's a pretty good, I can't recall. My memory said that there was 2 tennis courts there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's 2 there.
Now there's nothing. I mean, to Richard's point, it's a total rebuild because the surfaces, and there's no fencing around it any longer, that kind of thing. And then the other thing we don't know either, as I guess maybe Janet, how would we even coordinate with the state park? Do we have a contact there?
Yeah, we'd have to go through the state park, and we do have contacts because we work with them for when there's running events. There's some that go through the park and then come into Lewis. So we do have contacts, and we would have to work with them. Yeah. But it's
and maybe the compromise is maybe you agree to build the bathroom facility and they'll do the pickleball there, because I think they could use a bathroom right there with the field being right there. So
right.
You would think they'd like the idea that, I mean, obviously everybody knows it's the fastest growing sport in the world right now. So that's a draw for the park. I mean, people will actually come and camp there just so they can play pickleball and go to the beach.
Good point.
Yeah, well,
And it may not put the burden all on one organization to come up with the money, since it's a regional approach, maybe the state might, like you said, the state might be like, oh, it's a great idea. It's a good draw. We'll do it. Yeah.
Good point.
I don't know what the obstacles are. I know, obviously in an ideal world, you have it right there. You can bike to it from your own house or walk to it.
Right.
But you'll still have that, they'll still have some courts in the canal front that you will accommodate you on the weekends or what have you, where there's smaller groups. And then this could be better for a larger, you could probably have tournaments there.
Yeah.
The lighting though, I don't know. I can't think of anything that in the state park where, there is lighting maybe some parking lots here and there. I don't know that they'd be open to that, but you never know.
Yeah. I don't recall seeing any lighting in the park, and it closes from
that's what I thought, Jen.
dawn, right? So you wouldn't have the option to be in there at 9 o'clock at night or.
Well, people don't usually play pickleball at night anyway, right? I mean,
if there's lights, then yeah, they do.
Yeah, I have had calls from pickleball players that have wanted to go down at night and the lights weren't coming on at the park. We got that resolved, but there are some that do play at night.
Yeah, these larger facilities, Barry, that they're building now that are for profit, they all have lights because they can really, especially for the people that are still working, they play a lot at night.
Okay. Other options. Has anybody come up with other options?
I also went through the Great Marsh. Does anybody know of any land that's not mushy there? I mean, I've been walking the trail. That's nearer my home, and I've been walking the trails, and I don't see I can do anything like pickleball courts anywhere near there. It's a large area. It's great for the garden. It's great for the dog. The dog park is really mushy too.
And they brought in filth. I mean, Rodney was involved in the dog park, and he'll tell you that they brought in a lot of filth. And a couple weeks ago, Janet, myself, and Marty tried to walk the perimeter of the park, and we encountered a great deal of water, especially that quadrant where you come in from New Road on the right. Seemed like there was a lot of water there, and it was. I mean, and it was sometime after it had rained too, wasn't it, Janet?
It was.
It wasn't like the next.
It was early January that we went out, and we hadn't had that stretch of wet weather, but there was a lot of water in several different locations through the park, and our walkthrough was to kind of try and get a jump start on a quote master plan for the park. So we're going to be meeting with someone, and Barry, you had the contact information of a forester to walk around the park with us to help us identify native trees of value versus the invasives, kind of get a handle on that. And we're still getting a handle on the boundaries of the park. It's interesting that I run into a lot of people that don't even know about Great Marsh Park. So we still have some work in that area to do. And I think that putting anything in that park without that master plan moving forward, I don't know that that's
wise.
a wise decision. We did do surveys, the city did do surveys of residents and their interest, what they would like to see, how they would like to see the park utilized. The majority of the responses were for passive recreation. So those are all factors that we need to consider as well.
It's great for walking. I have to say that there's some charming little pathways, you know, it's to me, it's some perfect more walking trails actually.
Yeah, it is. And Barry and Marty and I walked that path. It's used by the high school too for cross country. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
On Monday, the council voted to give the mayor the ability to name a commissioner for the Great Marsh Park also. So he might look to do that. I don't know that he has anyone in mind, but that has that option.
Are there any other sites that we should consider or that could be options?
Someone in the panel just indicated in the summer, the back row parking spaces at the state boat ramp are empty and is also paved.
Yeah, I drove up there too, actually. Once again, it's a matter of drawing people into Lewis or up to the boat ramp in the summer. Maybe I'm focused too much on that, but yeah, there seem to be paved areas there.
The only other big piece of land that I think about, and I don't know that much about it, is the University of Delaware has a big piece of property there. Now, I don't know whether there could possibly be a corner of that property that could be utilized or that is not, being used or whatever.
You mean where the Verdon Center is, Barry?
Well, yeah, that whole corner is huge. In fact, I think they own land next to the monument there too, between the road and the canal. So all I'm saying is there's a big piece of land that's owned by the state that may or may not have,
Good point. And it's high ground.
Yes, exactly. And that's sort of right in Lewis, and it's.
Yes, that's true. And the new road goes right up there. I mean, Park.
Park, right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I was just concerned about going all the way up Park and then turning left onto Pilot Town and going another mile up that road. It doesn't seem like a very sensible place to put pickleball courts, but.
I'm going to ride up this afternoon to check out the boat ramp too. Is the boat ramp owned by the city of Lewis? Who owns the boat ramp and the parking and all that?
Where would you put the courts by the boat ramp?
Well, that's what I want to see, if there's any land behind the parking. I mean, there's something there. I don't know what's there, or is that marsh behind it?
I'm pretty sure the state owns that, but.
Oh, okay.
Let me look at the map.
You're right. There is a lot of parking. I know that, but yeah, you're right. Where would you put the courts? I couldn't quite figure that out for myself.
Oh, yeah. I just can't. I've been up there a lot, but I've never looked with that eye to see what's behind there. If there's a field or whatever, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like there's a couple of things that we need to at least further investigate. I would say that any Board of Education property, which is OSHA or whatever it's called, and also find out what the plans are for all the land behind that new development. Is that all spoken for? Do they have plans for it? And or is that a possibility? And the other details that we need to follow up on is the possibility of anything in the state park, and if that might be a possibility. In fact, I think the state park was also mentioned in the plan, that master plan, the feasibility study that they did a year or so ago. And for some reason, I think it was eliminated, or maybe it was still an option.
So the boat ramp is it's zoned as community facilities.
Okay.
So there's a comment from Ennis to all parties. The parking area is paved. The last row of the parking area is empty most of the summer. There is lighting and there's plumbing in the Den Rec building. So there are some other amenities to that area. I just don't know what available land there is for pickleball courts.
Okay. So that's another thing that we could check out. So it sounds like
I'll check that out. Yeah. I'll try to go back and look up and see why the park was eliminated, if it was on some of those studies.
yeah.
Do you recall, was that in the one that First Day Pickleball did, or was
Yes.
it, because there's, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think the Ennis is referring to, looks like on that boat ramp area, there's 3 sort of parking strip lots, and there looks like I think they're referring to the one, essentially closest to town.
Okay. Any other options that anybody has checked out or can think of?
I think early on in one of our discussions, it might have been at the very first meeting, talking about, I think, Andrew, you may have brought it up, some like private land and approaching private landowners. I thought that you had mentioned up a car lot or.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, there is. So, you know where Hewling Cove is? So as you're leaving Lewis, there's subsidized home housing on the right-hand side.
Right.
You get to, it was Lewis Auto there. And I mean, they appear to be, selling, because there's not been cars there for the last 6 months. That's my understanding. I've not seen I've not been approached to buy it, so I don't know. I can't state for sure that it is. So, but yeah, again, that's an area that's, right, probably ready-made, to at least lay a surface on it.
What do you mean, right next to the bike trail? The old
Yeah,
Lewis,
there is a trail. Yeah, there's a trail. Exactly. Kind of comes out.
as you're going out of town, it's on the right.
That's right.
Savannah Road, right? Savannah Road?
Savannah Road. Yep. I mean, to Janet's point around private, I know the Lewis Dairy also, I believe, sold and probably will be developed. So in that same thinking of, maybe once they start to develop a plan there, is coordinate, hey, could we have a part of this for our pickleball court?
And will you let you use part of your open space as pickleball courts? Because I assume that's going to be more high density housing there. It's not going to be single family homes. You're not going to touch that one, are you, Andrew?
I'm not seeing anything.
I'm looking at Google Earth on the marina site, or the boat ramp site, and other than the parking, there's a lot of parking, but other than the parking, I can't see any place that you might even consider putting.
Yeah.
Certainly, you would maybe 1 court or 2 courts, but nothing. It's all marsh, or there's private property or some sort of industrial thing behind it, or beside it, I should say.
Yeah, it's boat building stuff, that kind of stuff, sort of behind that.
Yeah,
state.
There's a little bit of property behind that between there and Pilot Town Road, but it's not Doesn't look like an acre.
Mhm.
And it's probably very marshy. But worth a closer look.
Okay. Any other sites we should look at? And we should move on to resources and funding. And that's the last thing on our agenda.
I've heard a very radical idea. It's not mine. But it involves building a parking facility and then you put courts on top of the parking facility.
Yeah, we'll do that right by the bank there.
Yeah, Lewis.
Wow, 2 birds with 1 stone. I like that.
What about that auxiliary parking lot by the bike trail?
Yeah, how about that helicopter pad, Barry? Dual purpose, helicopters and pickleball.
There you go.
Just kidding.
I think the only thing that we haven't looked at, really touched on very closely is any private land. But to me, I think we're gonna have a lot more success with either Lewis owned land or state land where we could develop some cooperative agreements. I mean, we already have cooperating agreements with the state for a number of things.
Yeah,
So,
right. That makes sense.
So let's move on from facilities, and the next agenda item was community resources and funding. I don't know if anybody has any ideas about that. My whole I think focus is to somehow work cooperatively with state organizations since number one, they took an interest in doing a whole feasibility study and have an interest in helping to provide some space for pickleball. Ernie, Lopez's office, I think, paid for that whole study. So they obviously have some kind of an interest. So that's definitely a community resource. And then, the state park, as well as any of the other organizations like the University of Delaware.
Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned it before, didn't Ernie Lopez give thousands of dollars out of his budget to the dog park? Is that correct?
I think it was $8,000. Yeah.
Maybe other people in government can have a little money in there.
Well, and maybe we ought to be having a conversation with his office too.
I know I talked to Mark Schaefer. Mark Schaefer does value he recognizes that recreation is important to the community. So when Tim Richard and I met with him, we pressed on that, and he also realizes there are no, to Barry's made this point before, like a Parks and Rec at the county level. So he hasn't promised any funds, but that's we should push on that. Our local, like you already made it, Ernie, and our local regional.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Grohl asked, is there any value in contacting the Lingo to see if we could get some land across from Freeman Highway, from the library, where Sea Green is, the area where the trail starts in there? I think that's where he's referring to there. So similar to what the Jones Farm kind of idea. Yeah. Doing something in conjunction, maybe sharing in it. It's a good idea.
Because they all have to have a certain amount of open space if they want to, donate especially since they've made so much money from the town and the development. That's a good idea, I think, Andrew.
I like it.
Well, it's not mine, Dr. Grohl's idea. Jerry.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. No, that's a great idea.
Well, it's good for their community. It draws people in. I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Let's see if Nick Roth could put that one into the paper.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other,
So do we have a hard action item on that, on who's going to call or who's going to contact Lingo?
All right, I'll do it. I'll call Carrie and see.
I mean, I'll certainly, I'll be willing to check with the Board of Education to find out about Osher and the land behind the new school. I certainly can do that. Janet, do we have any contacts with the state or the state park that could be follow up on?
Yes, I will, I'll follow up on that.
And Richard, the area need is somewhere between an acre and a half. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, with parking, it's very tight on 1 acre. If you're talking parking, you have to have a pretty suitable site, but an acre and a half is definitely plenty of room for 8 courts.
I think the exact footprint that Rodney came up was 1.3, something like that, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, if you want to put a little sitting area and have some excess space, but an acre's cramped for the amount of parking you need, but it does work in certain situations.
okay, great. Any other discussion? Comments? I think we can adjourn the meeting if everybody is in agreement with that.
Do we want to talk
Second.
about setting the next meeting?
Sure. Do we want to do March 10?
March 10th, okay. Wednesday, is that a Wednesday also?
3:10.
Yes.
3:10 at 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Calendar looks like it's free, so it should work. So March 10th at 10?
Works for me.
Sounds good. All right.
Sounds good.
All of favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll see everybody on March 10th. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll update the rest of the people with the minutes and go from there.
Terrific. Thanks all.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
I don't know where I'm. Just turn it off.